Hi everyone, and welcome to this free webinar, How to Lose Fat Without Giving Up Wine and Chocolate. I'm Louise, and I'm so happy that you guys are here today and that you're joining me. This is a very important conversation that we're about to have, and I hope that you can minimize all of your distractions and put everything away and just spend the next hour or so here focused, because the information that I'm going to share with you is really game-changing when it comes to fat loss. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to figure out if you're in the right place. Then we're going to go through exactly why diets have failed you over and over again in the past. I'm going to teach you how food actually works in your body and when you eat it, and of course what that means for fat loss. And then I'm going to break down the exact 3 steps that I use to help my clients lose fat faster, all without giving up wine and chocolate. Then we're going to recap and wrap it all up. So hopefully that sounds good. If you stay until the end, you're going to leave this webinar knowing exactly what you need to do to start losing fat right away in real life and keep it off. No magic pills or restrictive diet involved. I mean, that's why you're here, right? And I know it sounds corny and maybe a little bit impossible, but that is what we're going to do. Before we go any further, let me introduce myself properly. I am a nutritional therapist who runs programs for people who are desperate to lose weight. I show men and women who feel fed up, tired, and disconnected from their bodies how to lose weight and nourish their body without having to give up their favorite foods. My ideal clients are committed to nourishing their bodies from the inside out, and they understand that crash diets do not achieve long-term results and are ready to say goodbye to them forever. My typical clients struggle to wade through all of the information out there and want to learn how to love food again. They need structure, they need support, and they need to be kept on track. My approach is unique because it's all about achieving results that actually last. My approach is focused on abundance rather than deprivation. I teach the exact strategies that I use to stay trim whilst leading a hectic life, and these strategies have worked for hundreds of my clients, and I've used this experience to create my formula. So let's deal with this once and for all, and let's get you energized, and let's develop an amazing relationship with food. 9 years ago, I started studying nutrition, and I had and still have family members and close friends who struggle with their weight. And back when I was just an unqualified nutrition enthusiast, I watched all those documentaries and I read loads of books, and I tried to help those loved ones who wanted the help. And essentially what I thought was that you needed to exercise more, to eat lots of salads, to cut out the fat, to eat low calorie, to drink lots of smoothies, and then the weight would just drop off of you. Well, those loved ones didn't lose weight after all, or if they did, it just went straight back on and more. So 6 years ago, when I graduated, I felt much clearer on what to do. Having seen firsthand that nutritional therapy could resolve digestive problems and fatigue conditions and various other chronic conditions, I felt that stubborn fat would be no match for nutritional therapy. But how wrong was I? I could not get my early clients to lose weight. Well, not unless their diets were truly atrocious. But I thought it was just me. Maybe I was interpreting the research wrong, but no, my peers were experiencing the very same problem. You see, back when we believed that eating little and often was what everybody needed to do, man, how things have changed in such a short period of time. And that's just one example of the many things we had gotten wrong. Over the past few years, I have been on a mission to consume all of the weight loss literature. I've done specialist courses, I've studied the research, I've attended many seminars given by people who are getting results. I've been putting these strategies into practice in my private clinic, and now I've helped hundreds of men and women to lose weight and keep the weight off without them having to completely give up their favourite foods. I now know what works and what doesn't work, and not only that, but I know how to make these changes easy, achievable, practical, and enjoyable. So to deliver on the promise I made you a few slides back, which was a huge promise I know, we're going to do 3 things. You're going to learn why willpower is not the reason you keep failing. You're going to learn which foods create hormonal fat loss and hormonal fat burning, and no, it really doesn't have much to do with how many calories they have. And 3, I'm going to also make sure that you understand the biggest mistake that most people make when it comes to starting a fat loss program and how you can avoid it. Does that make sense? Hopefully you guys are excited for this. Okay, so let's start here. There's a reason that every diet you try works at first and then completely backfires and you gain more weight. That reason is what we're going to focus on, and it's a game changer. That reason isn't that your body is somehow different or that you don't have enough willpower to stay away from the crisps at 9 p.m. every night. It's not that you're missing raspberry ketones or that green tea supplements or whatever the latest wonder pill is. It is that you are not eating the right foods. You aren't eating foods that support the hormonal state of fat loss. It's that simple. Simple, but not necessarily easy. Learning how food works and how to use food to hit your goals is a huge game changer. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Because if we can figure that out, there is no more mystery. We can always know what to eat, and we always hit our goals, and life gets easier. And I just want to apologize for using the phrase game changer there twice. I know it's a bit cheesy, but I can't think of another way to get across to you the magnitude of how important this information is. So let's figure out if you're in the right place, if this method is going to work for you the way it does for me and my clients. My method, my way of eating, is not going to be for everyone. It's for a very specific group of men and women who have tried everything. People who have spent time, logged the hours, and also spent a small fortune on dieting and supplements and all of the things out there, but have never been able to make it work for real life. So let's spend a little bit of time and figure out if you're here in the right place. So number 1, nothing is working. You're still gaining or maintaining no matter how little you eat. So yeah, if you're making the same mistake that all of my clients are before they come to see me, then you're definitely in the right place. So this is the belief that the less you eat and the more you exercise, the skinnier you get, or thinking that it's as simple as calories in minus calories out, and as long as the calories out were bigger, then you will lose weight. So that theory is so wrong. Calories are a very small part of a very big picture. You see, it's not just about calories. Whether you burn or store fat is determined by hormones, not by energy in versus energy out. Yes, it plays a small role, but the type of energy going in is way more important because the food you are eating and the particular way it digests is completely integral to setting the stage for the right hormones to be in control. Starvation mode is a real thing. Your metabolism literally downregulates when you don't eat enough. If you add exercise into that equation, you can actually start to gain weight since your stress hormones spike because your body's in trouble. In starvation mode, your body is trying to survive this self-inflicted famine. Your body will conserve energy, i.e. produce less heat and send less energy to the muscles, slow your thyroid down, etc. And that's to compensate for the lack of energy or calories coming in. So think about that. Are you getting this? Because this is important. So number 2, you're in the right place if you are eating healthy and following all the diet rules, but still not losing weight. So big mistake number 2 for my clients is thinking that healthy food automatically means weight loss. This is probably the biggest mistake that people make and the most frustrating because you feel like you're doing everything right, you eat ridiculously healthy, and you're stuck feeling fat, exhausted, and like you're missing out on all the things that you love. So for me, it's like wine and chocolate. So it's so frustrating, isn't it? We're going to spend some serious time talking about this because it's a huge gap in the industry and in any other diet that you've tried. And apart from anything else, things that are labelled up as healthy are usually pretty expensive. Stick the words superfood or free from, lighter, heart healthy, etc. on it, and you'll be charged way more. So number 3, you're in the right place if you crave carbs every single day and your willpower is just not enough. If you're at the end of the day and you've got nothing left to avoid those crisps or popcorn or whatever your guilty pleasure is. This is one of the biggest fails for everyone that I've worked with, the belief that it's normal to have to avoid certain foods using willpower, and that success depends on the strength of our willpower. Back at uni, when I learned that cravings actually had a physiological basis and that I craved carbs because my blood sugar was unbalanced and my body was desperately trying to achieve balance, my mind was blown. Now, I know that it's true because carb cravings really do disappear when your blood sugar becomes balanced. I see it happen time and time again with my clients, and honestly, I'm always a little bit blown away. Now, isn't that amazing? All of this time spent thinking that these cravings were all about your mood and all about your likes or dislikes when there is something so basic and easily controlled driving them. So can you imagine how good it finally feels to be in control of cravings? If you did my 5-day detox to curb carb cravings, then you'll have had a little bit of a taster of this. And so what you need to understand is that we can take this a lot further and get your body even more balanced to control those cravings and stop you from having to use willpower as well. So finally, you are in the right place if you are so sick and tired of the BS out there. You don't actually even believe that anything will work anymore, but you haven't completely given up yet. That's why you're here listening to this free webinar. No matter how sick and tired of it you are, you still want to lose weight, and there is no shame in that. So if after listening to the common big mistakes, you're still here and ready to learn, then that means that you know you're in the right place. So now I want to say something that I consider to be a major truth. It was definitely the truth in my case, and it is for most of my clients. What you know about dieting is totally wrong. Your cravings and impulses for junk food are not emotional, they're physiological. Until we understand what's going on in our bodies when we eat specific foods, we are setting ourselves up to fail over and over again. Now, I don't know about you, but I find that really, really frustrating. It feels like everything you've done has been so wasted, and yet the truth of it is that it's so much easier than the restrictions or the supplements that are constantly thrown at us. And it's okay for you to be frustrated about that right now too. I still get mad at it. I get mad for your sake, for the men and women who are still spending a fortune on pills and shakes and programs that just plain don't work. So let's get into what I call the mind-blowing background, so I can teach you exactly what does work and why. This is the secret to how food works and how to make sense of macronutrients and fat. I'll keep it as simple and unsciencey as possible, but if at any time you have questions, then please feel free to head over to the Facebook group and ask away. So, fat, protein and carbohydrates are what we call macronutrients. So when you hear me use the word macros, these are what I'm talking about. Other things like water and vitamins and alcohol do not come under this category. Vitamins and minerals are known as micronutrients. You don't need to remember that though, just remember the word macro and know that I'm talking about fats, carbs and protein when I use that word. Fats are things like olive oil, coconut oil, butter, lard, animal fat. Apart from cooking oils, they're usually found mixed with protein-rich foods. Protein includes meat, fish, eggs, beans, pulses. Animal sources of protein will often include fat, and plant sources of protein will always include carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are foods that include pasta, potato, bread, rice, couscous, and those types of starchy foods. Fruits and vegetables are also carbohydrates, but when I refer to carbs today, I'm not referring to unprocessed fruit and vegetables. It's really important to note that sugar is also a carbohydrate. When we eat carbohydrates, so bread, pasta, sugar, they are digested down into glucose molecules, which is essentially sugar. And when this enters your bloodstream, insulin is released. Insulin is your fat storage hormone. So to summarize what I just said, carbohydrates like bread and pasta and sugar put you into fat storage mode because they affect your hormones, specifically the hormone insulin. So that's carbs, but what about fat and protein? Fat does not trigger insulin release and therefore does not trigger fat storage. Protein doesn't either unless you have really high amounts of it. So eating fats and proteins typically do not put you into fat storage mode. Now, it's complicated because lots of high-fat foods often have carbs in, but we don't need to go into that right now. The bit that people struggle with is how fat is gram for gram higher in calories than carbs, and yet it's carbs that put you into fat storage mode, not fat. So this means that those healthy, low-calorie snack packs are always based on carbohydrate-rich foods and are low in fat, and so are really not helpful. So this is what I call big revelation number one. If fat storage is driven by hormones like insulin, and we know that different macros or different foods cause different hormones to be in control, we can use that knowledge to pick our food according to our goals, okay? So many of my clients, I see from their food diaries that this fat storage process is happening every single time they eat, even when eating healthy foods, and also restricting calories as well. So with that in mind, you can breathe a sigh of relief now. We're done with the background on food, enough to keep you going and keep up with me at this point. And we're actually going to go through the steps that I've put together for faster fat loss. So hopefully you're ready. If there's any questions, remember that they can be asked in the Hormone Havoc Weight Loss group on Facebook. So now that we've gotten through that, you can see how the entire low-calorie or 100-calorie snack pack or protein bar mentality is the complete opposite of how to eat for fat loss. Okay, let's move on to the 3 steps or the 3 secrets to faster fat loss without giving up wine or chocolate. So step 1, you need to completely eradicate the whole willpower myth, and you need to understand that it is not willpower. It's the underlying blood sugar and inflammation issues. Willpower will never ever win against inflammation and unbalanced blood sugar, and that means that traditional dieting is setting yourself up to fail. So let me explain. I like using the analogy of the elephant and the rider, which I read about in an amazing book called Switch. So picture your executive thought, your willpower, so to speak, as a rider sitting on top of an elephant. The elephant is your blood sugar and your hormones. Now, the rider likes to think he's calling the shots, and with an agreeable elephant, he is. But what happens when that elephant decides to do the opposite of what the rider wants? Or the rider gets so tired of working really hard to control the elephant. The elephant will do what it wants to do because the elephant can overpower the rider hands down any day. When we think of willpower, we generally don't think about that elephant ultimately calling the shots, and that's what is happening. Willpower will never win against blood sugar and hormones. Now, isn't hearing that pretty good? I mean, think about it. You're off the hook. So wouldn't that just feel great to let yourself off the hook and also see results? Okay, so we've already talked a bit about blood sugar in our mind-blowing background. I think you've got the grasp on that now, and we'll go even deeper into blood sugar in the next step. But suffice to say that in order for you to balance your blood sugar, we need to pay attention to the 3 real food groups, so the macros, and keep them in balance. Let's talk now about inflammation because it's huge. I was making a critical mistake every other time I attempted to help someone to lose weight. You see, I was ignoring the fact that they were inflamed and that's a weight loss killer. Actually, if I'm honest, I wasn't ignoring it per se. I didn't even know that inflammation was a thing. You probably don't either, or if you do, you don't realize how interconnected inflammation is with fat storage. It's pretty crazy, so I'm going to start explaining it. So what exactly is inflammation? Inflammation is when your body is reactive and irritated and attempting to flush fluids and resources to an area as a reaction. Acute inflammation is normal and is a process that helps restore balance and healing after an injury or illness. Chronic inflammation is bad news, and it's caused very often by the foods we are eating and don't even realize are irritating us. So what does inflammation do? Well, it causes us to be puffy and it causes us to retain excess fluid, which makes us feel and look fatter to begin with. Secondly, it worsens your insulin resistance, meaning your body needs to make extra. Insulin is your fat storage hormone, as you'll learn in the next step, so this is not good. More insulin equals more fat storage. Inflammation also causes something called leptin to be less effective. Leptin is the hormone that makes you feel full, so when you're inflamed, your hunger can be out of control and you can never quite feel satisfied. This, of course, makes you eat more, and since there is so much insulin available to store fat, guess what happens? Finally, as if inflammation wasn't bad enough, fat cells actually become little inflammation factories, meaning not only is inflammation making you gain more weight and look fatter, but the weight we gain actually increases the inflammation. Talk about a vicious cycle. If you can get rid of inflammation, big things happen. Bloating goes way down and you feel thinner right away. Your genes do up so much easier and you aren't puffy. Being inflamed saps your energy, so your energy goes way up. This is huge for maintaining those afternoon sugar cravings. Also, you sleep better and your skin is clearer. Basically, cleaning up inflammation is like a huge deal, and without doing that, you can't make much progress in lasting fat loss. So hopefully that makes sense. So how do we do that? What's the trick for losing fat without willpower? We get blood sugar and inflammation caused by our diets under control before we start a fat loss program. So then inflammation is managed. So that's step one. Deal with the blood sugar and inflammation first. So you start with a big win, like inches down or bloat gone and energy up, and then start the fat loss. So I think that's pretty cool. Step two is to flip the switch over from fat burning mode by changing the hormones in charge. I've alluded over and over to fat being stored or released according to hormones. So let's explain this a little bit further. I'm going to give you as simplified explanation as I can. There are so many hormones and factors that work together with fat storage or release, but we're just going to focus on the two main hormonal players to keep it simple. So first, let's talk a little bit about how fat actually works. Fat evolved as a way for us to survive periods of famine. Basically, when we evolved, we were generally in a situation where food was available all of the time, or we were in a situation where zero food was available. So because our bodies are smart and adaptive, they figured out a way to take the energy from food when it was readily available and store it away for when it wasn't. The solution was fat cells. Your body uses fat cells as storage lockers to put away extra energy. You can literally think of fat as leftovers pushed to the back of the fridge. So hopefully that's quite an easy analogy for you to understand. Okay, so in order to pack away the leftovers, your body relies on hormones calling the shots. In order to use these leftovers, a different set of hormones come in and make that happen. Insulin is the power hormone. It's released from the pancreas in response to sugar entering the blood and moves the sugar or glucose from the blood to the cells for energy. Insulin tells the liver to store excess sugar. When these sugar stores max out, it tells the liver to convert excess sugar to fat so that the body can use it later. Glucagon is the other power player. Glucagon acts directly opposite to insulin and is responsible for breaking down stored fat and carbohydrates and using them for energy. Glucagon and insulin are counterparts, which means they are like opposites. So when insulin is high, glucagon is low and vice versa. So this is huge. The type of foods that you eat directly impacts whether insulin or glucagon is high. The type of food you eat is directly responsible for either building up those storage lockers or helping to empty them. So this revelation is big, right? Like, calories are not the be-all and end-all. Calories have no impact on these hormones. So isn't this great information? Don't you find this just mind-blowing after all of those years of counting calories and only reading the calorie component of the label? I know I sure did, and honestly, I still do. So things should be making a little bit more sense now. They should be coming together, and you should be able to start to see that healthy foods, quote unquote, may or may not be healthy for every goal. So let's use a few examples. This is one unrelated to fat loss, but it's a really good illustration of this point. So kale is healthy, right? It's superfood. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. What about for someone who has severe IBS? So for that person, kale is actually extremely unhealthy because it's so rough. It actually irritates the intestine and causes a flare-up in a ton of people. Yes, kale is healthy. It has all these vitamins and minerals and fiber, but it's not healthy for Joanna who has severe IBS or IBD, right? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so let's bring it back here. Porridge is healthy, right? Still cut oats, lots of B vitamins and fiber, sure. But porridge, is it great for fat loss? Mainly carbohydrates and no fat, leading to blood sugar instability and even potentially inflammation, because grains can be very irritating. In this case, I'd say no. So healthy food, but not ideal for the current goal. You need to use this lens to look at all of the healthy food options that you've been eating, thinking they support fat loss. You also need to look through this lens at the unhealthy foods or the foods that you suspected were unhealthy that you've been avoiding. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so let's move on to step 3. We now have inflammation managed, so you can see actual fat loss happening. After that, we moved on to hormonal fat burning and using the right foods to make sure that that happens. Step 3 is to stop sabotaging ourselves by making the biggest mistake when it comes to fat loss. Stop falling for the latest or even the oldest fad diets. I'm going to tell you something. Weight loss on these diets is almost always due to calorie restriction. Calorie restriction is dangerous because your body can't keep it up forever. So eventually it has to end. Also, when you restrict your calories, your metabolism follows suit and declines over time. When you start eating a regular amount of food again, it doesn't just come back up. This is why the rebound weight gain effect is so huge. So let's talk a little bit about the most popular diets and why exactly they failed you. I'm assuming if you're on this webinar, you've experienced at least one of these or more. So let's start talking about Weight Watchers type diets, where you track your food according to a points system. This is basically the first stop for most of us. It seems pretty simple, it's fairly inexpensive, and we all know someone who's lost a bunch of weight on Weight Watchers. I hate to break it to you, but they just changed the word calories for points. All Weight Watchers is calorie restriction. And the problem with that is that you're focusing on the part of the weight loss equation which has the smallest effect. It also means that as soon as you stop counting the points, you're totally lost because you haven't actually changed what you eat, you just restricted it down to less than you actually need. Let's run through an actual scenario, shall we? Let's say that you need to lose 10 pounds. You're currently eating 2,000 calories a day and maintaining your current weight. That means if you decrease your intake to 1,500 calories a day, you're going to have less calories coming in than you are burning and you will lose weight, right? Well, yes, at first. So you'll lose a few pounds. But here's the thing. Like I was saying, your body is super smart and adaptive. Its goal is to keep you alive. And the less calories in than out means eventual starvation. So your body actually adjusts the amount of energy you use on daily activities, aka your metabolism, and so now you're only burning 1,500 calories a day. so you stop losing weight. So you go ahead and you eat less. Now you're eating 1200 calories a day, and the same thing, and so on and so forth. Metabolic down regulation is real, and it also takes a very long time for you to bounce back from that, from what we know. We also can't keep it up indefinitely, and eventually we will go back to eating those 2000 calories. The brutal part is that now that you've trained your body to eat less, you're only burning 1200 calories a day. So on the exact same amount of food you started out eating and maintaining, now you're eating and gaining, right? So that in a nutshell is why calorie restriction doesn't work. So now that we know that, we can zip through these next two. Low carb diets. We've all tried low carb, Atkins and whatnot. Sure, you'll lose weight at first, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the same issue. If you remove carbohydrates without properly balancing your other macronutrients, you're just restricting calories, just like Weight Watchers. So you're going to end up with metabolic downregulation or crazy cravings and binging on carbs because of the restriction. So cue the rebound weight. Lastly, and there are so many diets that we could go through, but I think you're probably getting the picture by now. The last one is basically the eat less and exercise more approach. So this is probably the worst offender, because in this one, you're not only down regulating because you're taking in less energy than you need consistently, but you're also actually causing muscle damage and then not providing your body with the raw materials to repair those muscles. So this results in less lean muscle in your body, which is a huge problem because lean muscle is metabolically active, and that means that when you're just hanging out or existing, the muscles in your body are constantly burning calories. So if you have less muscle, once again, you're burning less energy and again, reducing your metabolism. So see why this is such a huge problem. Now that you have this key information, you can assess pretty much any plan out there and see if it's actually just calorie restriction in disguise. And if it is, then just stay far, far away. Okay, so we've been through a lot of information here. So I want to quickly recap the 3 steps to faster fat loss for you, so it's not all muddled up. So we're going to reduce inflammation and start to balance blood sugar to get rid of cravings and start fat loss. We need to flip the metabolic switch to fat burning mode by using the right macros, create balanced meals so that blood sugar is stable and the fat burning hormones are in the driver's seat. And we need to avoid the biggest problem most people have, which is calorie restriction. Make sure you are eating enough. So we've been talking for, I don't know how long. It's been a lot of fun, and I feel like I've taught you guys some valuable content and some really cool things. But obviously, it's impossible to cover everything in this webinar. So what I've done is I've put all of that information that I've just shared with you into an online program. It's called the Nourish Method, and the Nourish Method is a way for us to work together, a way for you to implement everything that you've just learned in the past, however long, and over 12 weeks and beyond. So I'm going to take a few minutes then, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my program, the Nourish Method to Faster Fat Loss, and how we can work together to use my system for your fat loss goals so that you can decide if this is the best next step for you. So let's start with who it's for. In short, if you were here nodding your head while listening to this webinar, then it's for you. It's for men and women who have weight to lose, whether it's 10 pounds or 30 plus pounds, but who are done with magic pills and potions and starvation diets. It's for men and women who want real, lasting fat loss that they can maintain in real life, including vacations and parties and kids and all the other things that real life involves. I built Faster Fat Loss because I was so tired of seeing the people that I loved struggle with fat loss. Everything seemed so complicated and there was so much conflicted information out there. And I saw these people spending so much time and energy and huge amounts of money on plans and products that I knew weren't sustainable. I knew that because they didn't work with blood sugar or to balance hormones or just teach them how food worked, that any weight loss wasn't going to last. I knew this, and it was so frustrating. At the same time, I was starting to see some pretty incredible results in my clinic with my weight loss clients. And I was getting messages from people telling me that they couldn't believe that they weren't hungry. People I was working with were losing weight without having to eat carrot sticks and lettuce and going to bed hungry. So basically, I built Fast Fat Loss so that you could do that too, so that you could lose fat without going crazy in the process. So you can figure out how to eat no matter what's going on in your diet and still lose fat or maintain your fat loss. So what is Faster Fat Loss? It's the entire fat loss process put together into a step-by-step program. It's exactly what we talked about today, put into a system that works in real life. It starts by easing you in gently, and then we get into the full swing of things from week 2. It includes 9 meal plans, and you can pick and choose and switch between them. This program is much more than simply following meal plans though. It's about teaching you everything that you need to know about how to listen to your body and adapt what you're eating to your environment. You'll be an expert on weight loss by the end of it. And finally, because I want you to succeed so badly, it contains access to my client-only Facebook group where no questions are off limits. So this is where you get the one-on-one support and accountability that makes it so sure that you will succeed. So that access doesn't expire, and neither does your access to any of the materials. So let's look a little bit closer at the steps to faster fat loss. Okay, so we have the fat loss program itself. This is where I really think there is so much value and so much game-changing content. So the fat loss program is where you get everything, every little thing that you could possibly need to take everything I've taught you and implement it. I'll tell you exactly what to eat. I'll help you figure out when to eat it. You've got step-by-step, week-by-week video implementation guides along with your 12-week path to success, which lays out everything you need to do step-by-step, week-by-week to lose fat faster. It's fail-proof, literally fail-proof. Now, just stop and think about that. How happy would it make you to know that you were going to lose fat and that it was fail-proof? Hopefully pretty great. So you've got all these great things, you've got all of the great content, but I wanted to make sure that you had absolutely everything. And when anyone walks into my clinic, I ask them the number one thing that they need from me, and it is always the same. It's support and it's accountability. So this is where the private Facebook group comes in. Now, I know a lot of you are in my Hormone Habit Facebook group, but the one that I'm talking about here is different. This is just for people on this program. This Facebook group is, in my opinion, the best part of the entire program. In this private client community I've created for you, you get everything. You get access to me, you get to ask your questions and have them answered really quickly. You get to have the accountability and the support. You get to connect with men and women who are going through what you're going through. You literally get everything that you need to be next level successful. So you are supported every step of the way from now on. You are never on your own figuring something out. You have a built-in community of people who are going to cheer you. So isn't that amazing? Wouldn't that feel good to know that you're somewhere where people really get it? Somewhere where you could go whenever and post a little success story or just a little event. Wouldn't that be great? And you get that for good. You can stay in this group forever. So from now onward, if you've got a nutrition or weight loss question, then you can just pop that in this group and get the facts. So now just a note here, if you do not use Facebook, you can still do this program. The group and community aspect is very valuable, but you won't miss on any of the course content if you're not on Facebook. Okay, so if this sounds like the best next thing for you, I want you to jump in and I want you to take action and I want you to actually commit now before you talk yourself out of it. So I decided to add an ethical bribe or a bonus. So if you just know in your bones that this is the right step for you and you decide to jump in now, then you'll also receive my hormone balancing masterclass worth £97. So all you have to do is use the webinar code webinar at the checkout. And I'm offering this bonus because whilst it's not an essential part of the program, so many of my clients struggle with imbalanced sex hormones. It's so common to have these issues after having children and especially when you are perimenopausal. So this will be an extremely valuable bonus for anyone who is going through some sort of hormonal change or if you experience hormonal symptoms. The Nourish method itself will definitely help with the hormonal issues, but the bonus masterclass will help you to add in additional things if you need to. So, if all that Faster Fat Loss did was make it so that you never feel anything less than confident in walking into a room and meeting new people or seeing family and friends that you haven't seen for a while, would it be worth it? If all it did was stop the endless cycle of getting dressed, asking your partner if you looked fat 300 times, not believing the answer anyway, and then getting redressed and then avoiding mirrors all night, would it be worth it? If it meant that you never had to diet again and you never had to go to bed starving and repeating to yourself over and over that you weren't hungry, then, would that be worth it? I think 1000% yes, it would. Okay, so I'm going to play a little testimonial video for you now.
I am Kathy, and I'm the Nourish program. When I heard about the resist program, I have a friend who does very well. That friend's going to be in I don't know why I never actually see her. When I saw Louise, she was and she best thing I so much about my body and energy to attend the family journal group I've got to help. No one can find it. I've lost weight and I'm stronger. She's offered me recipes really lovely. I think I love most about the program is just really shows me it doesn't have to be complicated. So that everyone's now. I really with them and I am
Now, there are more testimonials on the sales page for this program, so you'll see the link to that below this video, so by all means check those out. Okay. So again, you're getting the fat loss program itself, which consists of everything, literally everything that you need to adapt to this way of eating, to lose fat and gain energy and still have the wine and the chocolate and all the normal deal breakers, right? So then you have the fail-proof edition, you have the support of and the accountability and the community in the private Facebook group. Those aspects right there are enough for you to succeed, but there is also this webinar bonus of the hormone balancing masterclass. So remember, that's just using the coupon code webinar will get you that extra masterclass. So in my opinion, there is nothing to lose. There is a 100% money back guarantee on this program for 14 days from the date that you purchase it. I'm serious when I say this program is the best value, the most comprehensive fat loss program that I've ever seen, and that it works. It works in real life. It works long term. I'm 100% confident that it works. And I will give you your money back if you don't agree with me after getting inside and starting to work through it. So I thought I'd go through some of the most common questions that I get. So the first question is, do I have to take supplements? So the short answer is no. You can, but I'll guide you to my favorite ones, but you don't have to take them at all. So the next question is there a time frame? No, there is no time frame. I've set this up as a 12-week program. You can go through it as quickly or as slowly as you like. Like I mentioned, everything is lifetime access. Your membership to the Facebook group doesn't end. Once you're in, you're in. The content is delivered via email. So you'll get an email once per week with everything that you need. So you just have to save those emails and you'll always have that email. But also, if you wanted to go through the program again at a later date, then we can easily reset the software and then you can get the email sent in order again. So I usually get questions about food and how accessible it is. So let's say this. You can buy everything that you need for the meal plans or to create your own meal plans from Tesco's, Sainsbury's, Asda, Morrison's, Ocado, etc. You do not need to spend £1 million on health food store ingredients. That's not what this is about. You can, but you don't have to. So it's just real food. This is a question I get a lot. What happens if I have a bad day or a bad week, or if I have to take holiday? So I want you guys to listen really, really closely to this one. It's not a big deal. A bad day is a bad day. We all have them. Sometimes it's a pizza and wing night. Sometimes it's a homemade roasted chicken and veggies. What we'll work on is making the good choices happen more than the bad. We'll make sure that you're eating enough so that you're never ravenous and your blood sugar is balanced. And that makes you so much less likely to snack, and we'll make sure that you're eating the right macros. Basically, we're going to set you up for success, and that's what it comes down to. So if you have any other questions at all, remember that you can head over to the Hormone Habit Weight Loss group, which is my free Facebook group, and ask your questions there. If you're not on Facebook, then feel free to reply to any of the emails that you've received from me, and I will happily answer your questions. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I really, really hope to see you inside my Nourish Method to faster fat loss. Bye-bye.